Hello, this is Steve Malone with CompSevX. Hope you're doing well today and you get some good trades. This morning in the live active trade room, I had one of the traders ask me if I take a look at the Euro Aussie. He was considering a potential short because he saw what he thought was a head and shoulders pattern. And I wasn't sure. There were certain aspects of it that just wasn't really clear to me as if it was going to be a head and shoulders pattern. There was a potential for it to turn into something else. So today what I want to do is go over the Euro Aussie and some specifics about it, talk about the potential head and shoulders pattern, and then let's discuss what actually did take place in the Euro Aussie. Now, something that's important to remember is when you see a certain pattern, most patterns that complete themselves successfully have to have very well defined points of interest. If they don't, then what you may be doing as a trader is looking at something and kind of fitting it to a pattern. That's the bad thing about human beings, is we have a tendency to look at patterns and shift the pattern to fit into what we have in our mind's eye as what it should be. So sometimes be careful that when you trade, you fit the market to what you see in your mind's eye, because that isn't always the case in the marketplace. So let's take a look at the Euro Aussie and let's discuss, did the head and shoulders pattern play itself out? If you take a look at it right here, I'm just simply going to lay it out. The top up here is the head. The trader was looking at this as a shoulder and this move up right here as another shoulder. And he was looking at the fact that it had a descending neckline. So if we go from this low point over here over to this other low point, that's a descending neckline, which is a beautiful aspect of a head and shoulders pattern. One of the things I didn't like was this wasn't much of a dip. Usually in a head and shoulders pattern, what you have is you have the shoulder, then a deeper retracement. This isn't much of a retracement from this high point to this low point, but a deeper retracement back up to a high point, then a deep retracement like what we had over here. And I mentioned to the trader that what you probably need to have happen is it would have to get down below the trend line and continue making a move on down. It may break and continue going on down, and therefore you're good to go. Sometimes we have a tendency to want to rush into a trade when the trade's not really there. So when I took a look at this, I said, well, consider also your Fibonacci retracement, because a lot of algorithms run on Fibonacci retracements. So if we take a look at that, we did retrace back to a 38.2. But right here it just pinned below it. It wasn't actually going any lower. So my thought was we'd have to get a close below and some continuation. If we don't get that, then what we're going to end up with is a double bottom instead of a head and shoulders. And it's real important that we don't get ourselves caught in one pattern when the market's turning into another pattern. So what we have here is a situation where the market pulls down and we get this bearish rising wedge right here, or a bearish rising flag scenario, and we fall back down. We match a previous low on the average. We pin down, but we don't close below. And be careful of bars like this that have a long pin. If they open but close higher, that's what's referred to as a pin bar. And be careful of a pin bar, or some people will call it the Pinocchio nose, because the market's lying to you. It gives you that long wick and then closes inside of the open. So in this case it opened, went down, and closed a bit higher. That's the pin bar or the Pinocchio nose. And we all know that his nose would grow long when he was lying. So in this case the market's lying to him, potentially. Now, if you take a look down below in the Traders Dynamic Index, we can see that it is pushing to the upside. Okay? So my thought here is, okay, we need to break a couple of things. We need to break this positive sentiment trend line to go down, which is pretty tough to do. At the same time, we need to go ahead and touch and break the descending neckline here. So I would have to see both of those things take place in order for it to be a valid short, in my opinion. Now, another thing to consider when you're trading the exotics, in this case we're looking to trade the Euro Aussie, we have to look at the Euro dollar, and we have to look at the Aussie dollar. So at the time that we were considering this trade, this was the euro dollar. And the euro dollar was coming down. Now, here's the thing about it. If the euro's going down and we want to go short the euro Aussie, then the Aussie's got to be weak or possibly pushing to the upside. Fairly weak, though. There's got to be a lot of strength in the euro. Now, there's been a lot of discussion of the euro pushing up due to a forthcoming Greek bailout. So what I see here is a lot of up and down movement. I'd like to see it break this low point of around the 32.39 before actually coming to the downside. So just food for thought. We'd have to see this come down and break that right there. And we need to see the Aussie kind of stay put or slightly move up, but have more strength in the euro going down in order for the euro Aussie to go down. Okay? Now take a look at the Aussie dollar. At the same time, the Aussie dollar in this case was setting up a potential double top pattern. If the Aussie dollar goes down, strengthen the Aussie to the downside, then that doesn't necessarily mean that the euro Aussie is going to go down. That means the euro Aussie is going to go up. So in this case, if we have a double top here, and this looks like a pretty good sentiment to the downside, so you can see a double top here. We have sentiment to the downside. You can see the double top right here. There's a top. You see this top right here. You see the two tops right there. With the double top, if it breaks the midpoint right here, then what we have is a situation where the euro Aussie is going to go up if the Aussie dollar has a strong move down. Let's go take a look and see what took place here on the euro Aussie. As I step forward, you can see that it never came down and met the neckline. So now what we have is we have a double bottom and we have a continuation of positive sentiment. It didn't break the trend line right down here. Push it a little bit further and we can see that it continued pushing higher. Now, it continued pushing higher, a lot to do with, and here we are right at the end here. So it basically traveled this trend line and held the trend line, still holding that trend line at the time of this video. Let's go take a look at what happened in our major pairs. If you take a look at the euro dollar, well, it did push down a little bit here. Let's take a look here. So we did push down, we did come down at 32.39, but again, another pin bar situation here. Comes back up into the range, tries it one more time. Now at this point, this is a nice swing low situation. Continue on across, but look, nothing is happening to the euro. There's no strength in the euro. Well, with no movement in the euro, what took place is in the Aussie dollar. The Aussie dollar took over, and you can see that this double top pattern, well, it ended up being a true double top, and the market just dropped. And when the market dropped like this, that gave rise to the euro Aussie. Here we are right now. So with this strong move down, and with the euro pretty much just staying in place, not going anywhere, guess what happened? We have strength in a Aussie short and the euro holding steady. That's going to cause the euro Aussie to push up. In this case, not seeing any strength in the euro, but seeing strength in the Aussie against the euro caused that strong move up. So what ended up happening, instead of having a potential head and shoulders, we end up with a double bottom and a strong push to the upside. So again, be careful when you're looking at a potential pattern thinking, oh, okay, here it is. Have it well defined. We need a nice pullback. In my opinion, in this case, we would have need to see this pullback at least to a 23.6, maybe to a 38.2, then rise back up. You can tell from, if we went to this point over here, you can see that how the market came all the way down to 38.2 and then pushed up. So when you're looking for head and shoulders, have them well defined, or any pattern for that matter, have well defined points before making the assumption that that's exactly the pattern. As far as the trader this morning, I suggested that it need to break these levels before going short. Not sure if he went short or not, but if he took my warning, he probably held in and waited it out and maybe caught the move to the upside in the Euro Aussie. Well, folks, it's Dean Malone with Compass FX. Hope some of this information will help you in your trading. Y'all make it a great day. Get some good trades. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.